All right, welcome everyone, and thank you for joining today's session on navigating the digital currents with Adobe Analytics. We're excited to walk you through how analytics and tagging tools can transform the way enterprises understand customer behavior, improve data quality, and ultimately drive stronger marketing ROI. Let's start with a quick introduction to Munvo. Munvo is a consulting firm that specializes in marketing technologies, and we've been operating in the space since 2005. Over the years, we've delivered more than 500 MarTech projects across 120 enterprise clients, and our core strength lies in implementing marketing strategies, helping organizations get the most of their MarTech investment. And we're proud to partner with MarTech industry leaders like Adobe, Salesforce, Google, and Redpoint, among others. So at Munvo, our services span the full spectrum of marketing technology, from implementation to marketing transformation, data and analysis, and marketing operations. So wherever you are in your digital transformation journey, Munvo is well positioned to support you every step of the way. And since 2023, Munvo has been part of the Plusco company network, and Plus Company brings together over 24 forward-thinking agencies across creative, media, ad tech, PR, to name a few. And being part of this network gives us the opportunity to stay ahead of digital trends, collaborate across disciplines, and solve complex business challenges with both strategic and technical depth. So when you're working with any vendor from Plus Company, you're also tapping into a larger ecosystem of experts. And now a little bit about the presenters. My name is Robin Chen. I've been working in the MarTech industry for over 6 years now, with an expertise and a focus in analytics platforms. My background spans several industries, including finance, retail, travel, and e-commerce. I'm also joined today by my colleague, Smriti Patel. Smriti, she's been with Munvo since 2021 and has done tons of hands-on work with different partners and clients, working with the hospitality, retail, finance, and insurance industries. And she also specializes in digital analytics using Adobe and Google solutions.
Sorry about that. I don't know if you can hear me now.
Oh, you're back. Welcome back. So let me walk you through what we'll cover in today's session. We'll begin with the basics. So, what is tagging, why it matters for your organization, and we'll dig a little bit deeper into how tagging actually works and their key features. Then from there, we'll move on to some of the more technical aspects of data processing, the tag mechanics, and the type of data that the different tags will collect. And finally, we'll wrap up the session by sharing some best practices and real-world use cases that demonstrate how good tagging can elevate your marketing strategy. So let's get started and look at the big picture first. Why does tagging matter? And really at its core, tagging is all about the data, right? So it gives your analytics platform the raw material it needs to understand what's happening with the customers across the different digital channels. And for many of us, there's a big gap between having the data and actually using it effectively. So here are a few stats that illustrate that reality. In a recent survey, 45% of the marketers believe that data is the most underutilized asset in a marketing organization. And less than 10% of the marketers surveyed said that their existing data are being used in a systematic and strategic way. And only 32% of the marketers felt that they truly own or control their customer data, and many still rely on external teams or third-party vendors just to access it. And what these numbers really highlight are some of the common pain points that we see across different industries, across different enterprise teams. And the first one is the data silos. So the data is scattered across multiple systems and departments, making it hard to get a unified view of the customer. Then there's the inaccurate or inconsistent tagging that will often lead to unreliable data and in turn flawed insights. And perhaps most importantly, I would say that many organizations are sitting already on a mountain of data that they simply aren't activating on. And that's really the challenge in today's MarTech world. For the last decade or so, the focus has been mainly on capturing more and more data, making sure that we're capturing everything that the user is doing in terms of website interaction, app usage, CRM touchpoints, and offline behaviors. And we've built systems to capture everything. But now the question has more shifted. It's no longer, do we have enough data? It's more, what are we going to do with it? And that's where a good tagging solution and design and analytics come in. So now let's jump into the tagging overview. And tags are the foundation of any analytics platform. So when tags are implemented properly, they enable your system to collect data from various sources, analyze customer behavior, and extract actionable insights and measure performance. Tags are what allow us to track user behavior across digital touchpoints. So whether your user is browsing on a website, interacting with the content, or completing a purchase. And with all that being said, we've heard a lot of the good benefits of proper tagging. But you might be wondering, so what exactly is a tag? And a tag is a small snippet of JavaScript code that you embed on your website or mobile app, and its job is to collect data about the user's activity. So think of things like a page view, a click, or a form submission, or a checkout happening on your website. And then the tagging will send that information to your analytics and marketing platforms. So that's essentially how those platforms are actually able to know what is actually happening in the user's browser, for example. And, as the websites and applications are growing more and more complex, so does tagging. And oftentimes what we see in today's world is that each tool or each platform that you use might require their own tag. And very quickly you end up with, a cluster of different tags that you end up having to add to your website. And to solve that, that's where the tag management system comes into play, or the TMS. So a tag management system, like, for example, Google Tag Manager or Adobe's data collection, lets you deploy and manage tags through a centralized web interface. And what it means is that you don't have to rely on developers every time you want to make an update to the tags, and you don't need to touch the site's source code to make changes. It also gives marketers more control, and more importantly, it helps keep the site performance clean and efficient. So now that we understand how tags are deployed and managed, let's talk about the value they bring into your data strategy. And when properly implemented, tags allow you to collect data from a wide range of channels, from websites to mobile apps to smart devices, and it will funnel it all into a centralized analytics platform. So that gives you a much broader and more connected view of your customer. The tags will also allow for real-time interaction tracking, right? So when a user logs in, clicks on a button, or abandons a cart, that activity is captured in real time by the tags and fired through to downstream marketing systems. And the real-time data can trigger responses, like, for example, sending a personalized message or an email follow-up based on event-driven data points. And that will make the marketing more responsive and more relevant to the user. Another major advantage is cross-device tracking. And in today's world, the user move across different devices throughout their journey. So they might start a session on their mobile phone, continue on a desktop, and they might end up making a purchase in the app later on. So tagging will help you track those interactions across the different devices and sessions, even before they log in or identify themselves. So with the full journey stitched together, we will be able to understand the interactions and the journey of the customer before even they log in or identifies themselves. Tags also power more advanced techniques like like segmentation and cohort analysis. So with accurate tagging, you can group users based on their behaviors and patterns and start understanding who your customers are at a much deeper level. And this also leads to better marketing attribution. So with so many channels in today's marketing world, like email, social media, paid search, natural search, it's really critical to understand which touchpoints are actually driving conversions. And tags give you that visibility by properly attributing the marketing channels. So that can help your team allocate and strategize the resources more effectively. And finally, all of this data has the potential to feed into predictive analysis. And when you have consistent and high quality data, thanks to the tagging, you can build models for things like next best actions, product recommendations, or churn prevention. And this is how you start moving from a more reactive marketing to proactive marketing, where you're starting to anticipate the customer's needs before they reach out. And with everything we've covered so far, it sounds like having the right tagging implementation is really crucial and the foundation for a data-driven marketing strategy. And now you might be wondering, there's a lot of potential, but how do we actually get there? Do we have the right tools or the right teams or the right skill sets? And with that, I'll pass it to Smriti, who's going to take us into the weeds of implementing or optimizing a tagging tool for your organization, and which will hopefully help answer some of those questions. To you, Smriti.
Thank you, Robin. Okay, so now that we've kind of gone over what a tag is and how it can really help your organization collect analytics and useful analytics, I'll go through a little bit more on the technical elements of it. So the first thing we'll talk about is how these tags actually collect data and how it can be useful and how it can be actioned on, right? So the way that it really works is that by using a tag management system, you will eliminate the need for having multiple scripts on your site, which can slow down your site or become a mess to manage. So this kind of shows you how using a tag management system and tagging can save you a lot of time and a lot of resources. So the way that it works is at first, what we do is we capture user actions. So let's say they click on the site, they purchase, etc., whatever it is, we collect that. And what happens is that data gets sent to the tag management system like GTM or Adobe Data Collection. So think of that as the hub for where all of the tags live. From there, the data, the tag management system will distribute it to wherever it needs to go. So sources such as Google Analytics, ad tracking, CRMs, or even have reactive events that happen, for example, doing an abandoned cart. So tags could really play a crucial role in a lot of different marketing efforts. What happens also with the tag management system is that it eliminates the need for duplicate code and also will help with performance on your site. With this, there's really three main key benefits that I see. So three things are the performance, the stability, and the control that you have over your tags and the data that you collect. For performance, it's one piece of code that lies on your site as opposed to dozens that collect data for all of these different destinations. For stability, it's that you can choose which tags to manage and deploy and which you can take out without having to touch the code on your website. So everything can be managed through the tag management. Third is the control. So all of your tools, including analytics, ads, etc., can get the same clean data from one source without you having to worry about mismanaged numbers or having to worry about how to reconcile all of your different data sources. So moving on into a little bit more of a technical insight into a tag and all of the components that the tagging would require and the crucial building blocks for it are the things. So the first thing we have is the data layer. The data layer stores all of the web and mobile related data. So what we want to do is we want to think about it like a digital container that stores all of the important web data that we want in a structured way. It's where the information about the user interactions, page views, and any other activity that really happens on the site is collected and organized. The next thing we need to consider is event tracking. Event tracking is sort of like a mechanism that allows you to detect when the user or something happens on the website or app. It's how we know when a user clicks a button, fills out a form, or even plays a video. It's like a trigger that captures a specific user event that we want to measure, and that way we can specify what actions and what events that we really want to look out for when we're considering, for example, user journeys. We also have data elements. So data elements are sort of like a variable. So they collect specific pieces of information from the data layer. And this lies within usually, the tag management system that we talked about, the TMS. And the data element will help you capture the value. For example, if you have a product that gets added to cart and you want to keep track of what the product is, what the SKU is, what the price is for that product, this can all be stored within a data element. The next thing we have are rules. So rules are sort of the condition that we would want our tags to fire on. And an example I can use for that is, for example, if we have a form on a website and we want to know and only fire and collect all of the data after a form is completed, then the rule and the condition that we would place on that tag firing is if they click the submit button on the contact form, after which we will select all of the relevant data. The last thing to consider is environments and libraries, which are the testing and the production environments typically, which the tags are deployed to and managed. So this will help us make sure that we are testing and refining the tags before we launch them into a live environment. Next, I kind of want to talk about some of the different tag types and how we can use different tag types to effectively manage and collect data efficiently. First, we have the page load tags. So these are very basic tags that collect information such as the page URL, page title, and even the time that a user has spent on the page. So overall, this will help you measure the traffic volume and even the entry and exit pages for where your customers are coming into the site, and are also very essential tags, I would say, within your analytics and tracking. The next thing we have are event tags. So what they do is they capture user interactions, such as clicks, downloads, and plays. This will really help you with your click analytics. For example, if you want to know where your homepage is converting users or where people really go when they land on the page, event tags can really help you do that. They can track CTAs, form submissions, and downloads. Next, we have transaction tags. So these are a little bit different from event tags in the sense that they capture e-commerce actions. So things like cart additions, purchases, and any other e-commerce related actions would be kind of actioned on using transaction tags, and these will help you measure product performance and revenue attribution. The last thing we have, which is kind of the thing that covers everything that the rest of the three tags don't cover, are custom tags. So it's more for bespoke data such as campaign ID, scroll depth, login status, or any other data that you want to collect that's very specific to your business and might not apply throughout. So it will enable for advanced segmentation and even funnel analysis if you have specific touch points that you'd like to track that are different from the other three tags that we kind of mentioned. Next, I want to go through some of the best practices. So, these are things that we would really employ our customers to stick to. These will, make sure that your tagging is efficient and effective. Having tags is not the difficult part, but making sure that those tags are collecting data accurately, are compliant, and are efficient. Those things will really help you drive value from the tagging and analytics that you have on your sites. So the first thing that we would highly recommend and is best practice is to have a tag management system, a TMS, as Robin had mentioned earlier. And this is systems like Adobe Data Collection and the Google Tag Manager, which is also a very well-known TMS. Again, these systems will allow you to deploy and oversee tags on your website or app and manage multiple different tags on your sites, manage data collection, sorting, and also having a secure storage. So it really is a centralized hub for your tag management and will really cut down on the efforts that you have in terms of managing multiple different scripts and managing the cycles of the building of tags and deploying of new tags. Next up, we have tag accuracy. So once your tags are on the site, we want to make sure that the tag configurations are correct and that it really aligns with your business data objectives. So are those tags collecting the data that is relevant to your business? Is the data that the tag is collecting, is it helpful to your marketing cycles? Inaccurate tagging can also lead to a lot of inaccurate data. So it's really crucial that the tags are accurate. Another thing to mention when it comes to tag accuracy is tag sequence. So the tags sometimes need to fire in a very specific and correct order for that data to be helpful. And the main thing I can think of for this is when you have your conversion funnel. So if a user is supposed to come to your site, add a product into their cart, goes to shipping, goes to purchasing and putting their credit card information in, and then going to completing their purchase. Having the tag sequence and making sure that those are firing in order will help you analyze where there might be a potential drop-off of customers and react accordingly. The next thing is compliance, which is also a very critical factor. So it's vital to ensure that you are adhering to data privacy regulations and in compliance with them. So always adhere to legal and ethical standards for data collection. And sometimes these can also be a little bit different based on where you're at. So we have the GDPR, for example. So yeah, it's really important to make sure that our tags are in compliance and you are QAing throughout whenever you're adding new tags. Another thing to also talk about in terms of the QA process is to cover both the development and production environments, which I've slightly touched on earlier, is to make sure that before you deploy tags to your live environment, it's critical to test everything in a UAT environment and make sure that everything is firing correctly and accurately. The last thing I want to mention for best practices is an optimized load time, specifically to minimize any impact that your scripts and tags might have on your website and making sure that they're not negatively impacting your page load speeds. We know very well that sometimes slow loading websites or pages can really reflect in higher bounce rates and lost conversions. So it's important to make sure that while we are tagging and collecting data accurately and being compliant with all of the privacy regulations, that our users are also having a seamless experience on the site. And one of the last things I'll talk about is some use cases, some very relevant use cases that we have seen. So one of the things is tracking campaign performance. Figuring out which marketing channels work best is really key to spending smarter. By using UTM tags like UTM campaign and UTM medium, we can see which channels actually drive conversion. So we can put our budgets where it performs best instead of just guessing. The next is connecting CRM data and web data. So when CRM systems and analytics don't talk to each other, we have the potential to miss key insights. Tagging will kind of fix that by linking customer records with their online behavior. For example, if a sales team can see which content leads are engaging before buying, this will help them tailor their follow-ups and help them close some deals and have higher conversions. Another use case is measuring A/B tests accurately. So if we have a test that really works, we need clean data to know if it's actually working. Tagging can help track how users interact with different versions of tests on your site, so we can confidently pick the ones that actually improve engagements and conversions on the site based on real numbers, and again, instead of just guesses and hunches that we have. Cross-domain tracking. So we want to make sure that if we have different domains on the website, so for example, if there is a main site and a checkout page site, we are tracking our users across those domains. So without proper tagging, we can lose track of their journeys. Cross-domain tracking will help us keep everything connected, and then that way we can provide analytics and insights into their full journey and full path to the purchase and conversion. And the next thing we have is just ad platform accuracy. So, for example, if you have ad networks that are driving visits and people to your site, using tagging can be an effective way to cross-check if those conversions are actually happening and help verify the numbers that are coming in from your ad platforms. Tagging will help us track, what users actually do after clicking on an ad. So we know if the platform numbers are matching reality and reflective of the way that the users are interacting with the sites through the spend that you're doing on those ads. So after all of this, I think the bottom line is that tagging isn't just a technical, thing. It's very, very important that tagging is done in a you take a step back, for example, and look at your business insights and your business objectives, and make sure that you're using tagging to collect data that's relevant to your business. Make smarter decisions, improve marketing, and just get better results through the analytics that you have that is connected to your site. Really using that data to drive marketing decisions will make a profound impact into how your customers are reacting and also understanding your customers. And with that, I think that we are at the end of our presentation. And I think we're ready to take some questions if anyone has any.
So I see a few questions here. The first one is, how do you prioritize which tags to implement first?
Yeah, so there is a common framework that we'd like to follow for prioritizing tags and implementation. The way that it's done is we'd like to typically track traffic first, followed by engagements, and then the conversions. So traffic is anything like page views, UTM parameters, things that are critical for attribution. Engagement is things such as those user interactions that we talked about, like the scroll depth, video plays, form submissions, things like that. And the last thing we want to track is conversions in terms of implementation. So the checkout steps and things that we would count as conversions, we would kind of group within that step.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. Is there another question?
Yeah, we have another question here. How Adobe Data Layer differs from Google Tag Manager Data Layer? And when would you recommend one over the other?
Okay, yeah, so that's a good question, actually. So the Adobe Data Layer is a part of Adobe Launch, which is now actually called Adobe Data Collection. And it's tightly integrated with Adobe Analytics, and it uses something called XDM schemas that store structured data. So it's ideal for enterprises that need advanced segmentation and cross-channel analytics, for example. Whereas the GTM data layer is more flexible for mixed tool environments. So where you have, for example, if you're using Google Analytics and the Facebook Pixel, it is a little bit more simpler setup for teams that are using, multiple vendors. Okay,
Cool.
so I
Thank you.
think we have one more question, which is, can you share, no worries. Can you share a tagging insight that changed a strategy? I do have a really interesting, take on this and then a little bit of a story with this, but we had a client who had a large drop off from their homepage of their e-commerce site, but they really didn't understand why that was happening and what was happening to the users after they entered the site. So what we proposed to them was we do more tagging, and we implement more thorough click analytics of where their users are clicking on through their sites. And so this will help them understand what elements on their site are driving those engagements with their customers and helping those customers stay on the site for longer. And what this helped them do later on, after those insights became available through the tagging, was allow them to identify which elements were the most interesting to customers and then prioritizing those visually on the website. So this ended up leading to having more conversions later on. And I thought that was a really interesting and cool story.
Oh, and I see we have one question that just came in here. How does Adobe enforce GDPR compliance?
So Adobe does have integrated tools that help with doing GDPR compliance. So things like synchronous sync, I guess, with OneTrust, where Adobe will block tags until the users have consented to being tracked. There's also things like a data purge API that allows us, in case we do collect data that maybe we shouldn't have or shouldn't store, we can use the data purge API to go back and delete user data if that's been requested. Okay, I don't think I see any more questions come in.
Yep, I think that will wrap up our Q&A session. All right, so thank you for joining us in this insightful session about analytics and tagging. Feel free to scan the QR code or note down the contact information right here, and we will be happy to help with any of the inquiries that you might have in terms of tagging or marketing solutions in general. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.